Shalom Aleichem, sweetest friends. This is very, very, very exciting. We are continuing our discussion of Din of Rov and Miut. And in the previous shir, we saw huge yisod. We saw Rashi in Nidan Daf Yutches, who says that the machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim about the question of whether you say Smoch miuta lachazaka, and then it's 50-50, and you even have to be choshish for the miut. When you have a chazaka against a rov, you're choshish for the chazaka, because you're soimech the miut to the chazaka, and there's a reis on the rov. That's the sheet of Rabbi Meir. And the chachamim argue, and they say, no. There's a rov, the rov beats the chazaka, and al maladaber. Zakt Rashi, pshat and machlokas is, it's the same machlokas as to whether you hold, are you chosheshin al miut or chashilo chashin al miut. In other words, let's say you don't have a chazaka, you just have a miut. So do you have to be machmir choshesh for that miut, or Meir says yes? Chum say no. Same machlokas. So in the previous year we said, what are you talking about? That machlokas is only a derabana, whether chashin al miut or not. It's only a chum derabana. But this shaila of whether smoch miuta lechazaka, whether you put the miut together with the chazaka and it can beat a rov, it's already a din Torah. So how can you make tali tanya with a little tanya? How can you be told that din darais din derabanan? We explain that really it's the same sharish machlokas. Even the din derabanan is mevusas on the same yisod, and that is, what does a rov do to a miut? Does a rov knock a miut out of the park, or is there still a miut? Just the rov defeats the miut, it overcomes the miut. Rabbi Meir holds the rov doesn't knock the miut out of the park. What does a rov do? A rov is stronger than a miut, so make a right, then you have to follow the rov. But since it doesn't completely knock it out, if there's a chazaka together with the miut, reyes on the rov. According to and for the very same reason, chashin al miut, if there's no chazaka. And according to the chachamim, the rabbanan, no. The rov completely knocks the miut out of the park. And memela, when you have a rov against the chazak, it's you're going to go with the rov. Because when do you follow chazakas? When there's a suffix. But if there's a rov, there's no miut. There's no chazaka. And that's what the rov does. The rov completely knocks out the miut. So what we saw in the shir was that miut the command say, that according to Chaman, miut is like nothing. However, we concluded that if there are instances in which there is a miut, then we have to be choshish for the miut. If there's an instance where the rov is just a psak and an haga b'safik, and it's not a hachra berura, then we have to be choshish for the miut. That's how we concluded. And now we're going to see a bolstering of this thesis, dogul me'ravava. But before we get to the dogul me'ravava, we have to learn in a Rambam. Zok the Rambam in the fourth parak of Hilchos Ma'acholos Asuras, Halacha Dalit. Ve'osur lechol min habehema shenolda ad leil yom shmini. Ad leil shmini. You're not allowed to eat from an animal that was born until the night, it's 8th night. Do you know that? An animal was born, you get it in the supermarket, but don't worry about it. When we shecht it, it already reached 8 days. Because the Rambam says that if it doesn't reach 8 days, it is a din of a nefel. A nefel is a non-viable fetus, and it has various halachas that it's not considered a valid living being. So if it doesn't wait 8 days, it's considered a nefel. You're not allowed to eat a nefel. So you have to wait until 8 full days pass, and then you know that it's a viable animal, and you can shecht it and eat it. The Rambam Firtois, the Rambam concludes, ve'ein lokin olav, but there's no malchus. The makor of the Rambam is Reb Shimon Gamliel in the Bryce and Shabbos Kuflam at Hamad Beis, that if kol shesha ches yamim b'vehema eino nefel, 8 days isn't a nefel, and he brings a raya from a pasuk. 8 days of valid carbon. So the Rambam is mechadish a chiddush that even b'di'eved, if one shechs the carbon for 8 days, it's still going to be Asr Daraisa. Ein lokanol of mashmein malchus of Aish Asr Daraisa. Why is there an Isser Daraisa? Because it's a Suffolk Isser Torah. Why is it a Suffolk Isser Torah? Why is it a Suffolk Isser Torah? There's a Tais in Yavamis Naflamed Vavamid Beis that says that Roiv Noshim give birth to a Vlad Ma'aliyah. So let's say the same thing here. That Rov Behemoths, makes sense, are giving birth to Vlad Ma'aliyahs, right? So you have a Rov. Once you have a Rov, Laheder, why do we say there's a Suffolk Yisud Daraisa? Say there's a Rov. That Rov Behemoths are going to be viable births. And since you have a Rov, you weren't over in any Daraisa. I want to say Midrabani, you want to be Choishish B'Vakasha. But to tell me that Midoraisa you're not Samech on the Rov, why not? Why, if you eat an animal before 8 days, shecht an animal before 8 days, why is that considered an Issa Doraisa? That's Erste Kasha. Zweite Kasha is the Tvu Ashur. Tvu Ashur Yeridei Simen Tes Vov. Erad gefragt Stira and Rambam. So exciting when they find the Stira and the Rambam. Because you know that there's always going to be some Gishmaka Yishuv on the Stira, and the Rambam's going to come out dancing the Kazatska. In Yavamis, it says in Naflam Vav Amid Beis, Amalei Relazar Relav Hushaya Bereder of Idi Hasam Tanya Reb Shimon Gamliel. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer Hasam Tanan Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer Kol Shisha Ba'adam Shloshim Yom Eino Nefel. If a Vlad, a child, a baby, lasted for 30 days, he doesn't have a din nefil. Even if he dies afterwards, you say that it was a viable baby, and it has a din of a living person, not a nefil. But if it doesn't wait for 30 days, then it's a suffix. If it's a nefil. And if that's the case, when a woman has a child who dies within 30 days, the din is she does chalitza and she doesn't do yibum. She does chalitza because maybe it was an eifel. She's chayiv in chalitza. But she can't do yibum because maybe it wasn't an eifel and she's not chayiv in yibum. She's not allowed to do yibum. V'itmar, and it says in this Mishnah, meis b'sech le'shloshim yom le'dasoi v'omdov in his kacha. Let's say Shitaka got married. It died within 30 days and she got married. Ravina Mishmei Rava Omar Imeshis Israel. If she's an Eshes Israel, so then Choletzis. Let her do Chalitza Misafik. Das shat nicht. What's the problem? She'll do Chalitza. She'll stay with her husband. But if she's an Eshes Kohen, she doesn't do Chalitza. Why not? Because if she does Chalitza, then she's going to be ushered to her husband. So we don't make her do Chalitza b'diavad. So if the child dies within 30 days, we say that she doesn't have to do chalitza. Why? Why doesn't she have to do chalitza? She'll be asked to her husband. Make her do chalitza. Maybe it was a nefil. The answer is zak tesis in nidam im dalar amid beis diba maskil dekim. That we're samich on the rov. Vos zak the rov. The rov says that the child wasn't a nefil. Since the child isn't an eifel, the rov is that a child isn't an eifel. So memela, the din is that you could be samech on that rov. Samech on that rov. Sum was a good viable baby, and she can remain married to her husband. You don't make her do chalitza. She's an Eshes Kohen. Because you samach on the rov that it wasn't an eifel. So paskins the Rambam Perek Beis Melchosip Malach of Aleph. So you see, in Torah it's not even a suffix. With the Rabbanan we make her do chalitza. If she's an Eshes Yisrael, if she's Eshes Kohen, we say no, she doesn't do anything because Midoraisa she's cool. So what do you see? Now you see an often a stira. B'behema, what do we say? We say that it was a suffix. If it died before 8 days by a behema, we say suffix. Mashen kain, when it comes to a person who dies before 30 days, we say no suffix. And the question is, Maishna? Why by an Adam do we say that there's no suffix? And by a behema, we say that there is a suffix. In the Gemara in Shabbos, Nefkuf Lamed He'amid Beis, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel stellt zu between these two cases. He says, Kol shah shloshim yom ba'adam eino nefel, shenemar uftuyav mi ben chodesh tifte. Shmoni yom behema eino nefel, shenemar yom shmi yiratil karban, hal yiratil karban. So he brings down both dinim. If you waited 30 days, it's not an nefel, and 8 days by a behema, it's not an nefel. So why all of a sudden do we see now a difference in halacha? That when it comes to that's how the Rambam paskins, right? That when it comes to a behema, we say that it's a suffix nefel before 8 days. And when it comes to a person, we say midaraisa, it's not even a suffix, maishna. If Shimon Gamliel compared the two, it's safe to say they have the same din. And by a person, we say rov vlados aren't nefels. Follow the rov. So why don't we also follow the rov by behema? Great question. And say that it's not b'diavad, you're allowed to eat it. B'diavad, you weren't over Nisa Daraisa. No, the Rambam says you're over Nisa Daraisa. If you ate the behema that was shechted before 8 days, it's a Nisa Daraisa. Why is it a Nisa Daraisa? What did you do? You ate an animal that al pi rov is not an nefel. So it wasn't, we're not going to give you a medal, but it shouldn't be a Nisa Daraisa. Follow the rov. Okay, Rav Gamliel stellt zu between Adam and behema. It's a sec. Adam, you have a rov. Adam, you're not allowed to. Adam until 30 days is not considered a nefel. Adam until 30 days, after 30 days is not a nefel. But even before 30 days, you can be samech on the rov. And only b'diavad you make only lechatchila you make the woman do chalitza midrabanan. But b'diavad, she's cool, because midoraisa you say that it wasn't an nefel the child did before 30 days. But by behema you say if he shechted it before 8 days, then it was an nefel and you're so choshish, so we say the person was even over nisda raisa. Maishna. How can be mechalik between the two? So now we get to our Dagul Mei Ravova. The Dagul Mei Ravova is Miyashiv the Rambam, based on a tesis in Yevamis and in Nida. So Tosfos says that it's true that there's a rov that are not nefalim, but there's a miut that's shchiach that is nefalim. You have a miut hashochiach that are nefalim. It's a big yesod, and it's something that happens, and therefore Rav Shimon Gamliel holds that you're choishish for this miut hamatzui. And what does he say to do? He says to wait. He says to wait 30 days. To see if the child, only after 30 days, the child is a viable child. And only after 8 days, the animal is a viable animal. It's a miut hamatzui. And that explains our concern here. You're right, it's a rov. Rov aren't nefalim. But he still says, even though rov aren't nefalim, still, wait and see. Because it's a miut hamatzui. So based on that, the Dagul Mei Ravova says we can explain the chiluk why we're more machmir when it comes to a behema. Rambam is more machmir when it comes to a behema than when it comes to an adam. Why? Because a suffix nefil is a miut hamatzui. So let's see. When it comes to people, what do we say? We say that there's no cheskes iser. The second the child is born, now this woman no longer has a cheskes iser l'shuk, because she's holding her baby in her hands. And since she's holding the baby in her hands, so she might have had beforehand a cheskes iser l'shuk. She did. But now there's a serious race on that Chazaka because she's holding a baby. So once she's holding a baby, no longer aser, no longer a chiyuv yibam. That's when it comes to a person. But when it comes to an animal, when the animal is born, there's a cheskes iser. What's the cheskes iser? Iser she'ein zvucha. You're not allowed to eat the animal. So you're not allowed to eat this animal. And together with the iser to eat the animal, you also have a, because of cheskes she'ein zvucha, you also have a miud hamatzui that this animal is a nefel. So what do? We do a kombina. We combine. And we say that the miud hamatzui of nefels combines together with the cheskas ein zvucha, and if the person ate the animal, even b'diavad we say iser daraisa, no malchus, but iser daraisa. But when it comes to a person, it's a miud hamatzui. You should be choshesh. And if you could do chalitza. If the child dies within 30 days, if she's an Eishes Yisrael, do chalitza just to be sure. But midoraisa, we say that since the rov is that the child is not an nefel, and there's no cheskes iser, so you can go after the rov, and midoraisa she's muteres lashuk. And that's the difference between Adam and Behema. The Gabe Behema, there's a Cheskes Isser, which makes it Palgo 50-50, Cheskes Isser plus Miut, against the row 50-50. So we're now in Svekador Rice, says it's mamish scary. You know how to do it? Rav Shimon Gamliel says don't eat it. Rambam says even is Doraisa. And when it comes to a Adam, there's no Cheskes Isser. There's no cheskes iser l'shuk because she has the baby. She's holding the baby in her hand. Rov ladas are b'nei kayama. Since rov ladas are b'nei kayama, midoraisa she's allowed to get married. No cheskes iser. Midorabanan we tell her 30 days. If she already got married, then do chalitza if the child died. Say that. But midoraisa, go with the rov. So, to explain the Dogel Me Revava, Rav Chaim Shmulevitz Zechat Tzadik Levracha says the following: that we saw in the previous shir that we reviewed at the outset, that according to Rabbanan, the way we paskin, Rov is a beirur. Rov is misalik the suffix. Rov knocks the suffix out of the park. Once you have a Rov, you have nothing to worry about. Same thing with a Rav. You have a good Rav, nothing to worry about. If you have a Rav, you're cool. So normally, it knocks it out of the park. And therefore, and therefore, Rav versus Chazaka, the Rav beats the Chazaka because Chazaka is only Mekreshel Suffolk, and if there's a Rav, there is no Suffolk, because the Rav completely is Masalik the mute. However, even the Shitas Chachamim, they're not so close-minded. They say that, normally Rov is Masalik the Suffolk, or removes the Suffolk. But there's also a Rov that's a Psak Din, because there still is a Zanhaga. There still is a Suffolk. And you just follow the Rov. It's Zanhaga to follow the Rov. In other words, exactly the way Rav Meir holds in all the Rovs. Chachamim hold in certain rovs. So, if the rov can't be misalik the suffix completely, then taka there's still a miyut. They agree to Rav Meir. We say smoch miyut Chazaka, and you're choshish for the miyut. So only when the rov is a din beirur, only then you say that there's no, you're not choshish for the miyut at all. Goodbye miyut, everything is fine. Go with the rov. But when there is a chash for the miyut, when it's not misalik the suffix, then you have to be choshish for the miyut. So the chiddush of the dogma meravava is that b'miyut hamatzei v'davar hahoive, if it's a common miyut, then the rov isn't misalik that, and you can't say miyut to command the lese. So mitzad hanhaga, the rov is misalik. The rov you paskin by the rov. Doesn't matter if it's a miyut hamatzei, miyut shein hamatzei. You paskin like the rov. And for that reason, there's a chilik between a behem and a yavama. Yavama, we paskin that she's muteris min haTorah v'lo chalitza because you're samech on the rov. But when it comes to a behema you have together with the behema, right? You have the cheskas iser, smoch miyut l'chazaka, and you have to be choshish for such a miyut. And that's exactly the makor for what we've been saying. That two types of rovs. There's a rov that's misalik, a rov that's not misalik. So when it comes to an adam, you say, listen, since the miyut is a miyut hamatzui, we're still going to be choshish for that miyut. That lechatchila, if she's an Eishes Yisrael, we tell her to do chalitza if the child dies within 30 days, because you're not sure. It's a miyut hamatzui, you have to be choshish for such a miyut. But b'diavad, after the fact, if she's already married to an Eish, married to a Kohen, tell him to stay married, and you're samech on the rov, because there's no chazaka. Just a regular miyut. When it comes to a behema, that together with the miyut, you also have the cheskas shein and zvucha. There, you have to be choshish midoraisa, and therefore it's asr midiyavad. But you see that the Rabbanan also hold the sheet of Rav Meir. It's exactly like our Yisod. That the machlokas is whether rov is misalik the suffix completely, as the Chachamim hold, and Rav Meir holds that it's not. There still is a miyut. Chachamim say miyut command the lese. Rav Meir says miyut command the isay. There is a miyut. But in certain instances, even the Chachamim agree that the miyut still exists, and that's if it's a miyut hamatzli, and that's when it comes to nifalim. Shulchan Aruch Yeredeya, Siman Shinai Gimel Sif Dalid, paskins that a Kohen becomes tamei to his son, but only if he dies after 30 days. If he dies within 30 days, he doesn't become tamei because he's a suffix nefel, unless we know that Kol Lo Chadashav, that he went the full 9, then you can be metame. But otherwise, don't be metame because he's a suffix nefel, and a person's not allowed, a Kohen's not allowed to become tamei to a nefel. So they ask in the name of the Gra, why are we somech on the rov that are not nefalim? It's a mitzvah's essay to be nitma to krovim, and rov babies aren't nefalim. So why don't we tell him, be mekayim your mitzvah's essay, and don't be choshish for the nefalim because it's a miyut. Like Yavama, the Rambam Paskins, Amdav in his Kacha L'Kohen, that if she produces Chaz Chalitza, she goes with him. We tell her, don't do anything. Stay married and be somech on the rov that your child was a ben kayama. So to answer this kasha, Reb Chaim says that we darshan in Torah's Kohanim lo yitamal avadei mitam bein mitalim is suffik. Can only mitam if vadei you're chayiv to mitame, and now if there's a suffik if you're chayiv to mitame. Frekti Amuka Yosef, what do I need a pasuk for? Pshita, you go l'chumra midoraisa. You're now allowed to be over an isur tumah misafik. Assuming that sveika doraisa l'chumra is min haTorah. Maybe there's a raya that it's midrabanan for this medrash because you need a special need a special limud ein mitame ala safik. Because normally you could be mekel midoraisa and here no. Okay. Hakopanim, if you hold like the Rashba, safik sveika doraisa l'chumra min and many others sveika doraisa l'chumra min haTorah. So then pshita that you have to be machmir misafik. You're now allowed to be over an isur tumah misafik, and for the minchas chinuch mitzvah reish samach daled, that you need this miyut like a suffik nefel. That without the miyut, it would be mutter to become tamei to the suffik nefel because there's a hachra of the rov that he's not a nefel, and we learn from this miyut that he's still a suffik. That sof kol sof, there's still a suffik. And there's a xeris hakasuv that even though you have a rov, but You're only matami ala vadai v'lo ala safek, even if it's a rov, but it's still a safek. That's like the famous shita mekubetzis in the name of the Taisus Harosh, right? That if you have animals, kafatzechem and amuyon letochem, that if you have animals that are being counted from Meiser Behem, and one of them was counted and went out, and then went back into the pen, and now you don't know, it's mixed up with all the other animals, so we don't file the rov. Why not? Why not? It's batal berov. So what's the answer? The answer is it needs to be a siri vade, not a siri suffix. And even if it jumps back in, so there's still, you're right, you have a rov, but it's still a suffix. Each animal is still a suffix. It's chayv and meiser behem. So you see from there, famous yisod is discussed in tens of thousands of svarim, that rov still blives a suffix. You can file the rov, but in cases where you need a vadai, such a rov doesn't help. Rov doesn't help because rov still makes the suffix, but you file the rov. Even there's a hanaga. The halacha is to file the rov. But does that mean we're absolutely sure? No. So here too, you're right. You have a rov that it's a good, viable baby, but it's a rov. It's still a suffix. And here, if xeris hakaseh, you need a vada. That's the minchas chinuchs teretz. But this isn't so pashut because the Shmaitza says in Shmaitza Beis Perak Tesvav that the Rosh is only talking about a Ruba de Isei Kaman. Ruba de Isei Kaman is Xeris HaKosav. Because you don't really know, if you find a piece of meat, there are 9 kosher stores and 1 unkosher store. You find a piece of meat on the street, you don't know that it really came from the kosher store. Maybe it came from the unkosher store. What, it never happens that you go with less percentage, meaning there's only 10% chance, 20% chance, 30% chance, 45% chance that it came from the unkosher store. It can't be that it came from the unkosher store. How do you know? The answer is Xeris HaKosav. It's Xeris HaKosav that you file the rov. So in such an instance, we say that it's Xeris HaKosav, but there's still a suffix. Xeris HaKosav filed. But if it's a miut, the lesse kaman. What's a miut? The miut the lesse kaman. Ruba the lesse kaman. If it's a ruba the lesse kaman, that we already discussed in the previous year. That if it's ruba the lesse kaman, like where Elchonon explains the Shmaitza, that's a vadai. Because that's a teva. That's the way the world is. Rov bilos achar abal. Loads of ruba the lesse kamans. Something that's not just statistics that you have numbers, but something that's the nature of the world. So that's a ruba de lessa kaman, and ruba de lessa kaman, that's a rov of svara, and that's a vadai. So if that's the case, this is a ruba de lessa kaman. That it's not that we did numbers, how many are not nefalim and how many are nefalim. It's teva olam. That's the nature that when a woman gives birth, it's not going to be an ephah. Since Ruba says that's a vadai, it's shafta vadai, as they say in Lakewood. It's a ruba de lessa kaman. So nachamo, we should say that you should become saf tami to a nefel. Alavadi umatam b'matame ala safek. So why do you need to be mamayid a safek? Of course you're machmer in a safek. And Minchas Chinuch said nefel. And Minchas Chinuch wanted to say that a nefel is a safek. Nefel is not a safek. It's ruba de lessa kaman. Ruba de lessa kaman, it's vadai. So what do you need? Ein matame ala suffix, where it can't be talking about nefel. Nefel's a vadai. And every other suffix can't be a chiddush by nefel, that even though there's a rov, you still need a vadai, because this is a vadai. And you can't be talking about other sfekas, because of course you're machmer in other sfekas, other suffix tumas. If you're not sure if you're allowed to be matame to this person or not, of course you have to be machmer. And it also can't be talking about a nefel, because a nefel is a vadai, that you can be matame to it. But based on what we said, is a different reason. It's because we paskin, like Rav Shimon Gamliel, that you're choshesh for the miut hamatzui of nefalim. And as we explained the yesod of the Dogel Me'Ravava, that you can't say in our case that less of a suffix, that the suffix doesn't exist. Avada, there's a suffix. It's a miut hamatzui. If it's a miut hamatzui, there's a suffix. And the rov wasn't misalik the suffix. When it comes to nefalim, there is a miut hamatzui. There is still a suffix. You file the rov. Al pidin, you file the rov. And if she got married to a Kohen, they stay married no chalitza. Assume that it wasn't an nefel. And that she had a child, and she's not chayiv in chalitza, and she's cool. She stays married to Mr. Cohen. They live happily ever after. They have a Yiddish and nachas from kinder and einiglich and ir einiglich, and it's going to be l'dorei doros. But it's only midin psak, midin anhara, that you follow the rov. But it's still a suffix. And therefore, since it's still a suffix, for that you need the limud. Mitame alavada, even mitame ala suffix. You're not allowed to be mitame such a suffix, that even though you have a rov, but it still blives a suffix, because it's a miut hamatzui. And that would explain the Teres Kohanim. So we learned the big yesod in this shir. We have a lot more to do. I'm saying this is just tipping the iceberg. But I think we had 30 very good minutes of trying to understand two different types of rovs and how they are expressed in the various sugyas. And I bless ourselves that we should be zoicha taka lilmod u'lilami lishma v'lasas u'lekayim es kol divrei salma torasa b'ahava. And remember that after all the geshmak alundis, sof dover akol nishma es elokim yira et mitzvahs shmor ki zeh kol adam. Shalom, shalom, sweetest and most beloved friends.